Alright, welcome back to another video of my Unreal Engine Action RPG tutorial. So we are still on the inventory system, and this is gonna be the last video of it because I told you I would do one more video. Basically what I want to show you is how to swap like weapon animations, not animations, models, like weapon models and armor models, for instance, when you equip different items. I'm gonna do this at runtime, so let's see if it works. I probably end up pausing the video a lot in between while I'm thinking. I know how to do it, I just need to think sometimes. So we'll see how far I get. I might need to remake this video a few times until I figure all the details out, but it should be fairly easy because we have most of the logic set up. So in the last video we did set up this. What we need as well is, obviously, let's do armor. It works the same way for weapons and for everything, but let's do armor now just for it to be easy. So we need to create a new variable in our item slot. Let's call it armor slot, so that we know that we are able to equip armor on that slot. And then go to your onDrop function. So basically we're gonna need an item that is an armor, and then we're gonna need a slot to drop the armor in. We could name it helmet or whatever. I'm just gonna name it, so it's obviously it's gonna be like helmet slot, boot slot, or whatever. Let's do boots just to keep it easy. Boot slot. I think I have some boots that I could use. Or actually, boots are bad because they could just be static meshes. I want to show you with like a real static mesh. So let's do armor, whatever. I'll just call it armor for now. So basically, in your last check, because obviously all of these are going to be false if it's an armor slot and it's an armor. So we also want to check, is the slot that I'm dropping to an armor slot? Good. If it is an armor slot, and then we also need in our item details, I'm not going to do this because this is not something that I need, but what you can do is, you have the details here. What you could do in your item details, actually let me just do that just so that you can follow us. Item details. Go into your S item details, and then we're gonna add is armor, and it's gonna be a bool. Perfect. So there we have a bool for if it's an armor. Now we know. So now we need to check add. So if it's an armor slot, I should name this slot. If it's an armor slot and the item is armor. So if the item we're trying to drop is an armor and it's an armor slot, then we're gonna set the details. Set details, obviously, to the details, which are this. So the details you could be setting is like strength and whatever. I'm just going to show you how to swap the mesh now. So let's go into the player character. Where do I have him? Player character. Perfect. And let's create a function in the item and inventory graph. Let's call this, add a custom event, call it server, change armor mesh, make it run on server, make it reliable, and another one, call it MC, change armor mesh, and multicast. Perfect. Reliable. So executes on server, and this one executes on everything. So what we need to do then is, there are two ways to do this. Either we could swap the entire mesh, like the entire skeleton, because we already have our mesh here, right? So either we could swap the entire skeleton. That's what I'm doing in my other projects that I showed you in the very first video. So that's one way to do it. If you have completely separate like models, maybe you're not doing like armors, maybe you're doing like a transformation ability or whatever, then you just grab from this mesh, which is the skeletal mesh in this case, and then set skeletal mesh. So that's one way to do it. And then obviously you would have to pass either pass the information or just select here if you want to hard code it. So for instance, let me just show you. G key. MC change armor mesh. Server change armor mesh. So whenever I press G, I should now change the entire skeletal mesh of my character. Yep, there we go, as you can see. You can see it on both, right? So we did in fact change our mesh when we pressed G. Now this one isn't rigged to the Epic Skeleton yet and everything, but that's basically how you change skeletal meshes. You could obviously change animation blueprint as well if it's not the same, and you could, but you also, yeah, that worked, as you can see, no problem. So that's one way to do it. That's not modular though, that's changing the entire skeleton. What we want to do is we want to change only a part of the armor, because now we're doing an armor slot. It could be the head slot or whatever. We are gonna do the chest or something. I haven't really figured that part out yet. So what we want to do is we want to add components, skeletal mesh. Observe, it's not going to be a static mesh. If you do a helmet, it could be a static mesh, because the helmet doesn't actually, you could just set on a helmet above the head and add a socket for the head. But for skeletal meshes, when we're changing that, for instance, if you have a skeletal, if we add like the chest now, the arms are gonna need to be able to bend. So that's why we need like a complete skeletal mesh for that one. So let's call it armor mesh. I already had this before. So we want to set skeletal mesh for this one. Perfect. And we also want to, because it's not enough to just set the mesh. We also need to tell it to act the same way as the skeleton, the original skeleton that we're using, even though it's only a part. So how do we do that? We do that by master pose components, I think it's called. Set master Yep. No, that way. Yeah, so that's how it's going to be. Okay, so we want to set the master pose components. The new master bone is this mesh. So this is the entire master bone. Everything is going to follow this one. And the armor mesh is the thing that is going to follow this one in this case. Why does... Ah, sorry. What happened? Oh, sorry, this is me. I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry. Perfect. Like this. So, I'm out of tea. Horrible. Perfect. So, that's one way to do it. And what do we want to do now? Because this is an item. What you would need to do is, it's a bit annoying, or actually it's not that annoying. Go back into your item details. Obviously you would need a new variable called skeletal mesh. Is it a component? I think it's fine with object. Or is it, I think it's component. Let's check. Yeah. Skeletal mesh component. Mesh comp. Perfect. So, go back into your player character and just drag here. Make sure it gets passed through everything. So now we are passing it when we press G. We don't need to do that anymore because we're gonna do it when we drop the item on the slot. So what do we need to do? We need our reference to the player, and then what did we call it? Server change armor mesh. So as you can see here, we now can access what mesh we're gonna set, and obviously it's gonna be the skeletal mesh component from this one, and that's not a skeletal mesh object. Okay, so it wasn't. It's just a skeletal mesh in that case. Save all. Compile. Compile. Does this work? Yeah, that works. So it's gonna be the skeletal mesh from this one. Perfect. So obviously now we need an armor slot. I don't have an armor slot. So let's create an armor slot. And let's do it in the inventory, right? That will be inventory. So whenever we have this open, let's just decide. So this is right now a usable slot, but we're gonna take this one to the far right. It's not gonna be a usable slot. It's gonna be... Did I not create that one? Ah, sorry. Go back to the item slot. What you also need is here you need to instance is edible and expose on spawn. Compile. Inventory. Now we have an armor slot. So make this one an armor slot, or whichever slot you want to. So it is now an armor slot. Now we need an armor item, right? Actually, let's go in here and let's also change the details to armor slot. Perfect. Now we need an item. Items, child items, copy the potion, armor 01. Here we go. And for armor 01, we are gonna use. We're not gonna use a potion. We are gonna use. Do we have some armor icon? We're gonna use a target icon because that's what I have. Okay. We don't need this one. Let's see. I think I have something that I could use. Let's see what we want to use. Orcs. I have something. I think this guy has some sweet ass. So these are some awesome arm stuff going on. So that's what we're gonna use. As you can see, this is a skeletal mesh. Skeleton, assign skeleton. I am assigning my player mesh. I think I already did that, but I'm doing it again just in case. Let me just save that. It's super slow at saving. Perfect. The lights went weird there, didn't they? Oh, there they are. Let's drag this one to the armor 01. Static mesh. Shouldn't there be a skeletal mesh? Oh, sorry. Is armor. Perfect. Skeletal mesh components. It's there. Do I need to compile my master item? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, compile the master item, otherwise the changes aren't gonna be reflected here. So let's do. Where was it? It's the canit. Right from here, not to the master item. There we go. There we have the skeleton component. Let's not use this one. Let's see if we have some armor. Let's just do like this. Bam. And drag it out. It's a skeletal mesh. I don't want it to be a skeletal mesh, so I'm gonna convert SK canit armor mesh to static mesh. And I'm just gonna go to prefab items. I'm just gonna save it. Armor mesh. Perfect. There we go. And I'm gonna go back in here. And there we go. And I'm gonna drag it down a little bit. Perfect. So let's see. Did we get everything? As you can see, it's a skeletal mesh component and it's an armor. It's not going to be a usable item, and it's going to be called armor. It's not going to restore health. Cool armor. Alright, I think that's it. Let's see if it actually works. Already know something is wrong because it's not rotating. Did I not? Ah, yeah, of course, sorry. It's not rotating because that's just static mesh, right? Yeah, it's not the item. There we go. There is the item. Ah, damn it. Alright, let me just run there. There we go. Here is my super cool item. Let's pick it up. It's picked up. No. sorry, I have a small minor bug. I forgot about that. I think I told you about it. You need to open the inventory first, otherwise the inventory won't work, so you should probably do that on the begin play function. I'm not doing that. So anyway, pick it up. Here we go. It's in the inventory. Moment of truth. Bam! As you can see, if we go into the other one, we can add it, and you can see that it's added. Super cool. Working like a charm. So that's basically how you add armor. And you could do the same for like weapons, because in the beginning of the series we did this spear that we have now, but hopefully you're starting to draw conclusions by yourself. But it's pretty easy to just swap that as well, because in my player character I have equip, weapon and spear details. So obviously you would just maybe add like sword and shield details, and then when you drop on your sword on your weapon slot, you basically, whatever you do is when you drop on your weapon slot, you swap the equipped weapon details instead. So that's also one way to do it. But yeah, as you can see, that one is working fine. Yeah, I think that's about it for the inventory. That went smoothly. I only did one try before, and I messed up in like the first few minutes, so it wasn't really that bad. As always, let me know if you have any questions. I'm running out of ideas of what to do. I got like super nice. I got some tips that I should do like a boss fight, and I'm gonna do a boss fight eventually. I have some other ideas for other tutorials that I want to do as well. So, but let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions, and as always, let me know if you have any questions, and if you haven't done it already, please like and subscribe and everything. Perfect. Have a good day. Bye.